Very good afternoon, ladies, gents and teddy bears. Welcome to our BBMF special here at Coningsby. Oh, look at this. PM631 Mark 19 Spitfire for you here at RAF Coningsby. Listen to this Griffin powered mighty photo reconnaissance Spitfire of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. This is the longest serving aircraft of the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. It's been with the flight since the start. Doing, ladies, gents, teddy bears, welcome to our BBMF movement special. This is a Mark 19, a PR photo reconnaissance Spitfire. This was built, this particular airframe, built in 1945 in November by Vickers Armstrong at Reading. And these PR Spitfires, powered by Rolls-Royce Griffin 66 with 5-bladed propellers. Their speed bin, their ammo, because they were usually unarmed, but with speeds of 445 miles per hour and a high altitude as well. Not many aircraft in attack could catch them. The BBMF when they were established, June 57, during the Battle of Britain. It's one of the initial aircraft. So it looks like we've got runway 25 in use. It's going to be some very strong crosswinds by what I can feel here. Scheme, beautiful livery on that. Again, these didn't feature camo for high altitude, in and out of the clouds and skies, giving that sort of sky blue colour. Entrance to the Royal Air Force in 1946. So of course didn't see any hostilities of World War II, but he served with 203 Advanced Flying School between May 1949 and January 1950, before she entered storage, and also with the Short brothers at Houghton Park when she was delivered on the 2nd of July 51. Also spent time with the meteorological research flight as well, moved to Woodvale for temperature and humidity flights, where eventually she joined the BBMF on the 14th of June 1957. It's been the longest serving BBMF aircraft, longest serving BBMF Spitfire, with a lovely Griffin 66 Rolls-Royce wingspan, of course, 11.23 meters. Now they do have a larger wingspan than the Typhoon, even though when they do fly in formation together, the Eurofighter Typhoon and the Spitfire, you may hear a slight error where the commentator would say, look at the little wings of the Spitfire, where it's actually got a larger wingspan than the Typhoon. But I guess wing area, it's the other way round. Their service ceiling to accommodate their fast speeds will be in excess of around 42,000 feet as well, so there wasn't much that can catch it, but it could. Also some sources suggest at 45,000 feet as well. It is a little bit different, a lot more gruntier, shall we say, if that's even the right word, than the Merlin engine. A lot of people love the Griffon engine. It's here we go. Listen to this, I can hear that purring nicely. that sound. I hope you enjoyed that. That was beautiful. Ladies, gents, teddy bears, a good start to the BBMF movements. We don't have any idea what we're going to get, but a nice treat nevertheless to have the BBMF PM631 depart. And again, mixing it up a little bit naturally with the runway 25 in use. Beautiful. This is our squadron leader, Ted Coningsby. My name's Nikos, I'm your cameraman, historian and commentator. Welcome to a little bank holiday treat here at RAF Coningsby. Ted's home, Ted HQ, home of the BBMF, and it's been their home since 1976. They started off as the historic flight as well. They've had a bit of a name change with the addition of PA474, the Avro Lancaster. They were called the Battle of Britain flight right up until 1973, until they received the wonderful Avro Lancaster PA474 and added Memorial. That's when they added Memorial to their title. It was since then. So there you go, a little bit of extra info for you. They have had a few name changes during their time, and I've served in many bases and places as well. It's a little bit windy, Ted. Just be careful of that barrow, mate, yeah? All good, ladies, gents, teddy bears. Hope you enjoyed that lovely lovely departure there from our PR19 Spitfire. How we doing, ladies, gents, teddy bears? My name's Nikos, I'm your cameraman, historian and commentator. Hope we're all good. Welcome to our little bank holiday special. Hopefully we may get something else as well. Just keep an eye out on that one. I'm not sure if that's going to East Kirkby or if it's going to do its various flypasts. How we doing? It is a bit of a scorchio today in some ways, but cooled down by this wind. It's quite punchy, but nevertheless, how we doing? Hope we're all good, ladies, gents, teddy bears. I'm just going to quickly get the ADSB up just so I can keep track of our Spitfire. Looks like that is heading south west, so it looks like it's going to be going to do its flypast. So whether or not that finishes off a display at East Kirkby, it's unknown to us, so we'll see. Fingers crossed, we may get something else as well. That's what it's all about. Spitfires weren't based here at Coningsby. It was a bomber command station with number 5 group here, and served pretty well with bomber command right up until 1969, when things changed for Coningsby. In 69 it became a fighter station since then, with the addition of the FGR2, the Spey engine Phantom. It's had a few sort of iconic changes through its history. 1953 saw Coningsby have its first ever jet aircraft. Let me just sort this. All my notes are probably going to go flying today, but there we go. So yeah, no Spitfires that were actually based here. Like I said, it was started life off as a bomber command station right up to 1969. Goodness me. Welcome to Ted's home, Ted HQ. Big shout out to everyone here, our viewers, wherever you're watching from in the world. How are we doing? Hope you're all good, and welcome to the show. So we'll keep track of that, maybe back in about an hour, maybe looking at its fly past plans, but we'll keep an eye out. I think it's only got about four areas to cover, so you never know, we may get something else. Fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed. But welcome to England's second largest county. And during the Second World War, as you may heard of as well, this is Bomber County. And there was as many as 46 airfields with an average of 7 miles apart between airfield to airfield. For example, we've got Woodhall Spa, which is around about 4 or 5 miles in that direction, the way the backwards crow flies. You've got Spilsby, East Kirkby, you've got Waddington. So between each one, an average was around about 7 miles, and then you got Metheringham as well, and then Wickham-Bee, and so on, and you know, and then Digby, and you know, it's amazing when you think about it like that. You know, as many as 46 airfields in the second largest county of England. Before that, though, we must, you know, not forget what happened before that, and of course, it was actually pretty much a fighter town, because the whole county was literally on defence against the Zeppelin raids during the First World War. To give you an idea of the amount of airfields within England, there was about 300 military airfields of the First World War. Which stood at the end, 300 in total. By 1924, there was just 27. So you can see that dip. You know, you've got to think. You know, it's like the first aviation objective with the United States Army Air Corps and the defence of the United States. Do you prepare yourself? And the answer was luckily they did. Of 15th of January 1941. Of course, if you know what happened on December the 7th, 1941, just before the United States entered the... Oh, we do have another one. Do we? Yes. There you go. Talk history, you get aircraft. There we go. Oh, what we got? Yes, we have. Let's have a look what we got. Oh, look at this. Look at this beautiful. So our second aircraft, BBMF Battle of Britain Memorial Flight Aircraft. It is L363. So we've got both rivals of each other, friendlies, the Hurricane, and we've just had PM631. Now, the markings here, I can tell you straight away, RF, Romeo Foxtrot, that is 303 squadron with the red band that's just at the back of the fuselage, this famous red band. You've also got the 303 squadron, Horsham, Polish squadron emblem, just sort of to the 1 o'clock of the roundel that you can see there. You can see a second circle just behind the cockpit. Look at that, beautiful. The Hurricane entered service about 8 months before the Spitfire. So it was delivered in December of 1937, the Hurricane, and officially entered service in January. Some sources suggest end of December or the beginning of January of 1938. The Spitfire entered service in August of 1938. Treble One were the first to operate the Hurricane, and 19 Squadron of RAF Duxford operated the Spitfire for the first time. Mark II Spitfire, believed to be, sorry, Hurricane, sorry, Mark II C Hurricane, and it's believed to be the last Hurricane to enter service with the Royal Air Force. The other Hurricane that they have with the BBMF is PZ865, the last Hurricane built of 14,533. An exciting time. There was only 12 Hurricanes airworthy in the world. BBMF have 2. So for those that are not familiar with markings, so the first 2 letters, that will identify your squadron, okay? They weren't any fancy initials, it was the squadron, and that's 303. The third letter, which is in this instance J, they were marked A to Z, they were the flight. So you'll have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, E, all the way up to Z. And in some cases, when it rolled over, you'd also have a small 2, almost like squared, in case you had more alpha. In the early times of the Royal Air Force, especially with Bomber Command, squadron numbers were actually written on the side of the aircraft. For example, Kilo Delta 115 Squadron, before they used Kilo Delta, they would use literally 115. But of course, that wasn't very good for security purposes. If you were an attacking aircraft or a reconnaissance, or keeping your eyes in the skies, you could find out which squadron it was by looking at the numbers and where they were based and what they do. So they got rid of that and came up with a system that didn't make any sense. What I mean by that is you can't actually work out unless you learn them, because why would you? The Ted Coningsby channel live here at RAF Coningsby for BBMF movements on a little bank holiday special. Now the question is, will this be going to East Kirkby for the display? Will it be doing some fly pasts? We shall see. Those day glow high vis markers there, that's actually markers for the grass runway. There is a grass runway here at RAF Coningsby, training for the Chipmunks, the training aircraft, again part of the BBMF inventory. Chipmunks, 2 of them, they don't actually fly in formation. They're a training aircraft for the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. And we'll see the Chipmunk use it so that they can learn. So places like Old Warden Aerodrome, they need to get used to, obviously it's a different effect landing on grass. Any problems with having the grass runway, it does need a bit of TLC. So you've got to remember, rabbits, moles, digging up the ground can cause a bit of a hazard. So this needs to be checked by the AWCU as well. PS853 BBMF Hurricane LF363. Recently, as recent as 2022, part of it's had a major servicing at Biggin Hill. Here we go. Right, time for some more heritage. Merlin. BBMF of Britain Memorial Flight is a regular unit, so fighter pilots will, well, fighter pilot background will be flying these. Those with A400 experience and cargo aircraft will be able to have the chance to fly the Dakota or the Lancaster. I don't have any fancy navigational systems in there. It's just literally a little app and an iPad for the pilots in there, and a good old compass. So that was LF363 with the markings Romeo Foxtrot of 303 Coltishall Polish Squadron during the Battle of Britain. They do change the livery around every 5 years or so. The original Hurricane RF and J for Juliet was, which it now represents, it represents a Mark 1 and serial number Victor 6665, and that one was delivered to 303 Squadron at Northolt on the 7th of September 1940 as a replacement aircraft, and a stark demonstration of high loss rates during the battle. To last only 20 days before it was lost in itself in combat. In common with all the 303 Squadron Hurricanes, V6665 was painted with a colourful circular unit badge on each side of the upper fuselage under the wireless aerial mast. In addition, as well, you'll see the red band just towards the end of the fuselage. And yeah, the beautiful aircraft there. Flight Lieutenant Johnny Kent, one of the RAF flight commanders on 303, flew V6665 11 times. Sergeant Tadeusz Andruszkov claimed a kill in V6665, but was shot down and killed in the aircraft the next day. He was only 19 years old when he died. Remarkable ages, ladies, gents, teddy bears, to remember this. And 303 is now accepted as being the highest scoring RAF fighter squadron of the Battle of Britain, with the best kills to loss ratio of all RAF units involved in the battle, despite being in the front line for only 42 days. Hurricane LF363 that we just see take off, believed to be the last Hurricane to have entered service with the Royal Air Force. I'm just going to keep an eye out where that's going, if that is going to East Kirkby to do the display. Yeah, so probably not. Maybe getting something else, or they'll finish it off with a little display. Don't know where that's going. PM631. Maybe it's got a different plan. Maybe we're going to get a lot more. There we go. I'll carry on talking history. We might get some more. How we doing, ladies, gents, teddy bears? Hope we're all good. Welcome to the show. Hope we're all good. And like I mentioned earlier, the base RAF Coningsby was never had fighter aircraft such as the Hurricane or the Spitfire until 1976, because the aircraft of the BBMF are in fact, you know, part of the RAF's inventory. So we do have well, we've got various Spitfires in the Royal Air Force inventory, along with the Dakota, the Lancaster, two Hurricanes, and one of them we've just seen, and they do have two Chipmunks as well. You may see a yellow T6 Harvard here, and that completes, it's part of the last segments of the training for a BBMF pilot in the fighter aircraft, so that kind of finishes it off. That's quite, if you ever see that here, usually towards the end, just before they're going to get the PDA and getting all the final touches there. But Coningsby, of course, like I said, didn't have a Royal Flying Corps airfield, so during the First World War, but it wasn't until sort of in the 30s that it was decided, especially 1937, of plans to actually build you know, an active military airfield here. Many of the airfields were recalled, so in 1924 we had just 27 or thereabouts military airfields in the country, and by 1935 the reality of things that were going on for another war was looking realistic. So we had the likes in 1936 of Bomber Command forming, Fighter Command, and of course Coastal Command, and eventually there was a training command with various training units, operational training units that happened here. But grass runways were the thing, because they were easy to set up, with the exception, of course, of some tarmac and concrete areas such as the taxiways and hardened constructions. Just listening in to see what else we've got. But yeah, so concrete runways were not sort of proposed until December 1940. So anything that was starting to be built before December 1940 would have been built with grass runways. There are benefits to grass runways. Well, you know, although you can designate a stretch of runway that will be your runway, so we've got one here. If the airfield came under attack, there was always going to be some stretch of land a light bomber or even a Spitfire or a Hurricane could use. You may have seen the films, you know, they have like a bird's eye view of this airfield getting attacked, and you can see all these little Spitfires taxiing, trying desperately to take off. There will be some form of land to take off. The only problem with grass runways, like I said earlier, could be susceptible to, I know it sounds, you know, silly and we don't think about it, but moles could cause a problem using those mounds. So you've got to manage, hence we have an airfield wildlife control unit. Rabbits as well, causing problems underground, underneath, making it subside, and also drainage as well. That was also important to think about when choosing a particular position and a location to have a military airfield. So grass runways, like I said, excellent for fighters. Light bombers too, such as the Hamdens could use it as well. They were suitable, but of course, as you improve your technology, as it gets heavier, as you have different aircraft, it was only a matter of time before the hardened concrete runways took to the ground. And also the idea of having more than one runway as well. It was easy to come up with the runway, but of course, thinking about the directional changes of the wind could also play a major factor. If you were a light aircraft, your nightmare would be really strong crosswinds, or even really strong tailwinds as well. That could also cause an issue. So the idea to come up with a Class A configuration, which you can see on our lost airfields or Google Maps as well, where you can see, although we have only the one, actually we have two runway strips here, you can see the third where it used to be, and especially this Class A configured runway, usually around 6,000 feet. This was a generic, you know, some had longer runways, but you usually have one main runway about 6,000 feet, and then subsidiary ones about 4,000 feet, complete in a letter A shape. The benefits of this, well, should your airfield come under attack, there was always another strip that you can use, or if there was really strong crosswinds, then you could use the other runway. Having 3 runway strips means 6 directions of travel, okay, because aircraft are designed to take off into the wind, although there are some leniencies with heavier aircraft, and especially with those with propellers. But of course, if it's some strong crosswinds, you wouldn't really want to be facing those, especially if you're fully loaded and fully fueled as well. So that came into effect from December 1940, but plans to build Coningsby happened in 37, so it was going to be built with grass runways, and it was completed on the 4th of November 1940 to operate with the grass runway, and operated under number 5 group. Number 5 group started life out at Mildenhall for 1 month, and in October 36 they moved to St Vincent's Hall in Lincolnshire, not far from Grantham. The first residents to arrive and operate at Coningsby was on the 23rd of February 1941, and it was 106 Squadron with marking Zulu November who were operating the Handley Page bomber. I've been doing a little bit of research about the Handley Page bomber, and I'll show you it. Been doing a little bit of homework while I was waiting today, which was quite interesting. Something I don't mention too often is about, it was almost like a fighter bomber. It was actually quite a good bomber, really. It really did quite well, because it kind of innovated gardening, as they called it. So gardening, if you ever hear that, is a name for mine laying. And it really, it excelled in coastal command as well in its early times. And it, you know, it spent some time out at Lossiemouth as well, taking part, along with Guy Gibson as well at Lossiemouth, which we'll talk about when we go to Lossiemouth next month. But it really excelled in its coastal duties as well. There was even a TB1 version, so it kind of evolved. I reckon it innovated. You know, when we talk about the P-47 Thunderbolt innovating the close air support, I think these Hamdens, I think they really excelled in torpedo bombing with their mines. It could take an 18-inch torpedo as well, and it was pretty quick. You know, it was its sort of rival was the Bristol Blenheim at the time. But you know, these things come out, although they, you know, some squadrons such as 106 that was based here had a pretty bad reputation with it, because they ended up having the highest loss rate with being a Hamden squadron. But nevertheless, its first flight was in 21st of June 1936. As early as that, it retired in 1943. I believe there was some examples that were bought by the Soviet Union as well, if I remember reading correctly. But it really innovated the mine laying aspects, and it was introduced in 1938. It was 49 Squadron who received the first Hamdens, and then 83 Squadron, and it really took on the role of the strength of mine laying. It really excelled in that. And in a moment I'll be telling you Wing Commander Guy Gibson also tried to push forward to have more guns on it, because he quite liked it actually. You know, to give you an idea, it started life out with the Bristol Pegasus engines, you know, with 1,000 horsepower, had a wingspan of 69 feet 2 inches. That's 21.08 meters at 53 feet 7 inch, 16.33 meters in length. Although it had a pretty claustrophobic fuselage, which I'll mention in a moment. Max speed at 247 miles per hour, which, although the Blenheim was considered good, this was a lot faster, and so it really excelled. It had a service ceiling of you know, quite a good, you know, 19,000 feet for a twin engine bomber. I mean, we had the the Wellington, we had the Blenheims, you know, trying to rival this as well, the Wellesley. You know, there was a few aircraft that tried to match this, and I think this came out reasonably in some ways okay, but but then looking at the Wellington, which was more produced and carried on serving throughout the war, perhaps the Wellington was a lot more superior. But hey, that's just things we learn on paper. It could take 4,000 pound payload. I even learned that it could possibly take some bombs on the wings, but that was only on a small reed. Had a crew of 4, and eventually the likes of Guy Gibson was pushing for more guns on this thing, and the pilot was kind of separated away from his navigator because of the way he would go in. We had literally just under 1 meter. This is a very thin fuselage. It was nicknamed the Flying Suitcase, another fun romantic nicknames that it had. But once the pilot got in with the folding seat, he was kind of isolated away from his navigator and everyone else from the crew. But should the pilot get injured or worse, well, it was really hard to get the pilot out. But there we go. I think it, you know, giving credit to what we had, I think it was quite a legendary aircraft from what we had. They did stick some. They had another one with the Napier engines, but they called that the Handley Page Hereford. But they were a little bit underpowered and kind of like got rid of them in the end. They weren't that good. But, from what I heard. There we go, our first aircraft to operate at Coningsby. Let me just check ADSB that we don't have any surprise returns. Let me just check for you. Let's have a little look. Yeah, just got to be careful not to. I'll give it another 5 minutes before I check that again. Sorry? I don't know. I don't know, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's what I'm questioning. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, how are we doing, ladies, gents, anyway? So we had the Handley Page Hampden bomber first here with 106 Squadron, who were operating the Hampden, and their first mission happened a month later. Their first mission took part on the, actually the very first mission of Coningsby was on the 1st into the 2nd of March 1941. It was 5 Hampdens that took part in a raid over Hamburg. So that was Coningsby's first ever mission, the night of the 3rd into the 2nd of March 1941. The following night, again, the 106 Squadron took part in another mission. 106 Squadron took to the skies for their second mission on the 3rd into the 4th of March, but this was to make the first loss of RAF Coningsby. It was Hampden X3002 that failed to return, and the first loss of Coningsby with all 4 of the crew killed. On the 15th of March, 106 Squadron were joined by another squadron, and this was 97 Squadron with Oscar Foxtrot as their markings. 97 Squadron having a reputation with Waddington, and of course at Woodhall Spa, the 2nd Squadron to go with 44 Squadron in the very first major raid, daylight raid of the Lancaster deep into Germany, the Augsburg raid. But they came with the Avro Manchester. Now we're coming back tomorrow here, so I'll give you a full history tomorrow. So I'm going to go with little bite sizes today, but just to give you an idea, the Avro Manchester, as you know on our streams, well, had a pretty bad reputation. However, the evolution led on to the Avro Lancaster, and then the Avro Lancaster led on to the Avro Lincoln, and then the Avro Lincoln led on to the Shackleton. So you could say if it wasn't for the failing of the failed engines, it really was the engines that were a bit of the issue. It was a twin engine bomber, the Avro Manchester. It looked exactly like the Lancaster, with the exception, I don't know what that is, with the exception of 2 engines. But we'll talk to you a little bit more detail about that tomorrow, and I'll show you photos of what it looked like. It was unreliable, it was grounded several times. In fact, as 106 Squadron were here, they were going to convert to the Avro Manchester, but you see the Avro Manchester on paper looked really good. The engines had something like 760 horsepower on a twin engine, which was remarkable. However, they had problems. They were powerful, but they just weren't good enough. They were actually catching fire. It was the ball bearings that would cause issues. I wonder if I've got a photo to show you without it blowing away. Yes, I have. I'm just going to show you the evolution of the let me just quickly show you without it getting blown away here. Yeah, it's gonna get blown away. But I'll show you it anyway. Let's go, look, there we go. So you can see there, even the Mark 1A had a three-tail system, but they got rid of that on the Mark 1 and Mark 2s. They ended up extending the H by 3 meters, got rid of that. And then in the end, in prototypes, BT308 went to RAF Waddington. This was a 4-engine version. So in a nutshell, without going too much detail, the Manchester had a 90-foot wingspan, and it had 1700 horsepower engines, the Rolls-Royce Vulture, but the ball bearings would heat up, catch fire, and yeah, and then the propellers would start to feather and cause all sorts of problems to the engine. So what Roy Chadwick and his crew at the main designer of Avro, what he did, he decided to scrap working on the engines and actually come up with 4 new ones, extend the wingspan by 6 foot either side, so 102 foot, and it was going to be called the Avro Manchester Mark III because it was still developed under the specification P 13/36, which was a medium bomber specification. Ended up being a heavy bomber, same as the Halifax as well. But this had 4 engines, BT308, and actually had the 3 tails again, and then DG595 was just literally, they got rid of the centre tail, so the traditional H that we got today, sent it to, again, at RAF Waddington for test flights, and yeah, it worked well. And on Christmas Eve 1940, there was a bit of a Christmas present. Oh yes, that's right, they were operating the Avro Lancaster. They were going to give it a different name as well with that, but there we go. Ended up being called, luckily, the Avro Lancaster. So there we go. I'm just going to have a quick look. So yeah, so 1941 on Christmas Eve at Waddington, they had a good Christmas present. 1941 Christmas Eve. Sorry if I said 1940. They received the Avro Lancaster to operate with 44 Squadron. Also on when we started to get into 1914, April 17th was the Augsburg raid, that mission. But we'll talk about that when we get to RAF Waddington on our in the next sort of couple of months, I'd say, when we catch up with the Red Arrows and their training. But I want you to enjoy the airfield here and just imagine you're back in 1941 here. I'm just gonna have a quick look. Let's have a look what else we're gonna get. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking ADSB as well, because I'm just wondering if our Hurricane and Spitfire, I wonder if they are the ones that are going to go to East Kirkby for the display, or are we getting some more? So yeah, ladies, gents, teddy bears. So we had 106 Squadron with the Hampdens slowly converting to the Avro Manchester, which was grounded several times, and 97 Squadron also were operating the Manchester. Now, when the Manchester was ordered to be grounded for lots of problems, 106 Squadron, when they were operating the Hampden on their own, would actually operate on their own as a sole squadron. And when they eventually converted to the Manchester, on occasions when the Manchester was grounded, 106 Squadron and I heard 97 Squadron probably did the same. They started to use the Hampdens instead. That was interesting. April the 10th, in the night, 1941, 106 Squadron was sent on a small scale raid to Dusseldorf, and into the night of the 11th, as they were airborne, 2 more Hampdens were lost by night fighters. Both crew, the 8 men, lay side by side in a Dutch cemetery when they were lost. And in July and August, 106 Squadron lost a total of 15 aircraft. There there is somewhere on the airfield, I don't know where, an Avro Manchester crashed on takeoff here as well. In August 1941, Hamden A193, piloted by Sergeant Leon, was heading home from a raid at Duisburg when disaster struck as both Olympus Pegasus engines failed whilst 40 miles out over the North Sea, over the island of Texel in the Netherlands. And Leon managed to get everyone to bail out, and they spent 4 days out at sea with no one spotting them, and eventually were rescued by fishermen as they had nothing but raw shellfish and dehydration. That's all they had until they were prisoners of war. So we'll go into a lot more detail tomorrow for you. Hopefully the rain isn't going to be too bad. So many raids and many men were lost at Coningsby during lots of unfortunate events, even from the Avro Manchester having its problems. And eventually, as I said, in at RAF Waddington, which is in this direction over here, and sorry, it's so windy, it's absolutely windy. So yeah, while 1942, the Avro Lancaster was being rolled out with 44 Squadron and other squadrons following fashion, operating the Lancaster. Of course, you've got to be trained on the new aircraft. Don't forget, pilots here are used to the twin engine bombers. So the problem is, Coningsby had grass runways, and it wasn't suitable to operate a Lancaster on grass runways. So 5 miles that way, RAF Woodhall Spa was built with hardened concrete runways in the Class A configuration. And what they did, it was actually RAF Coningsby's satellite station. And what they did with the two squadrons here, they formed a heavy conversion unit. It's a bit like an OCU, basically, to train the pilots and crew on the new bomber, the 4-engine bomber Lancaster. So on really poor days, they would RAF Coningsby, although had Lancasters, they weren't actually operating here. They were operating at their satellite station at Woodhall Spa. And in 1942 as well, 106 Squadron was to have a new wing commander, aged just 23. Wing Commander Guy Gibson took command of the squadron. He increased morale here. He got himself back into flying. He didn't like desk jobs. He wasn't that type of wing commander. He wanted to get flying. He did a lot of the mine laying. He came from a background from Lossiemouth and a lot of mine laying. He also spent time with 29 Fighter Squadron as well. He was a great commander. He did 3 sorties in the Manchester as well during the following 3 weeks, and Gibson got himself, he took part in 18 night sorties, 6 were consecutive, and the squadron was improved. And I believe it was a crucial moment when Guy Gibson came here. Although he was the youngest wing commanding officer, I think he had a bit of I don't think he cared, to be honest, but there was some obviously people not liking that because he was quite young. In fact, a lot of crew would lie about their age and they'd actually say, yeah, I'm 28 or 26, but actually being 30, you were called a granddad in the Second World War. I know, right? 30, goodness me, don't know what I am then. There we go. On the 30th of May 1942, Coningsby's aircraft took part in the 1000 bomber raid as well over Cologne and German cities. There were 3 separate sorties. Eventually in mid-1942, 106 Squadron did their last mission here, and then there was a transformation at Coningsby. It was time to get this runway here a concrete one, and they did just that. 97 Squadron eventually moved to Woodhall Spa. And like I said, I feel that the great reputation and performance of Guy Gibson at Coningsby, I think that's probably what gave him the job. That you know, for Squadron X at Scampton for the Dambuster raid, and I feel Air Marshal Harris took note of that, and especially, you know, those high up in the Air Ministry took note of that as well, and thought, yeah, this is going to be our guy. So yeah, there was a transformation in September 1942 until August 1943. So nearly a year. The runway was closed and it was built and converted into the hardened runway. So 97 Squadron eventually made Woodhall Spa their home. The 106 Squadron went to Syerston, and because of the delays here, they ended up going to Metheringham, and there's a big heritage centre there, the Metheringham Airfield Visitor Centre. Check it out, it's really good. You'll see the Zulu November that I talk about. And 106 Squadron spent the rest of the time there. It was a FIDO site, which we talk about as well. And, you know, while the base was closed, there was the G Training School, Equipment School. There was the 5 Group Training School as well. And Cookery, Bomber Command's Cookery Field School was also here. And then when it was kind of almost ready, the first aircraft to actually operate it was the Oxford and the Avro Anson. So we had those there. It was with 1514 beam approach training flight. So it was utilised in that way. It was a great place to test it out. Beam approach training was literally sending beams down the runway, a bit like an ILS basically. And 617 Squadron were the first residents to use it with the Avro Lancaster here. They were, I know, the Dambusters were here along here. Then they moved, they swapped with 619. We had several squadrons here operating the Lancaster from 61 and 619 Squadron, but they all took part in many raids. And eventually on D-Day, on the night, on the 5th into the 6th of June 1944, 18 Lancasters took off from Coningsby, but sadly 4 were not to return. They were to become the first casualties of D-Day of the Royal Air Force. Eventually, Mosquitoes were operating here as well. We had various Mosquito squadrons making Coningsby the home. We also had a short spell of not only Washingtons as well. For those that don't know what Boeing Washingtons are, they're basically B-29s. There was about 87 of them that were leased out to the Royal Air Force. So when the Coningsby's PA474, the Lancaster, they were being upgraded for the Tiger Force out in the Far East, the Southeast Asia Command. They were modifying Lancasters, they were adding the 22,000 pounder, but to do that you needed to modify the Lancaster. So in the end, Roy Chadwick developed the successor to the Avro Lancaster, which was indeed the Avro Lincoln. You know, instead of modifying it, let's build one. But America had the answer. The US Army Air Force had the B-29s. Now wow, those engines sound good. This was huge. This was a 140-foot wingspan as opposed to 120 on the Lincoln. Listen to these engines, right? Now, the Boeing Washington literally is a B-29 with the exception of one thing: RAF livery and roundels. That's it. Kilo Delta 115. They operated this, not here, but this is just an example. Literally B-29s around 87. So it kind of come out too late, the Lincoln. Although there was a tragic incident involving the Cold War. RAF 531. I think, you know what? I've been having a look at this. I think, is that the only, I know it's going off tangent, I think RAF 531 may have been the only Royal Air Force aircraft to have been shot down by a Soviet Union aircraft, I think. I'm going to have a little research, but there we go. Mosquitoes were also operating here in the late sort of 44, 45 as well. And then, sorry, I know I did that not chronological, but I forgot the good old Mosquito as well, which was an absolute beauty, the wooden legend. I'm just going to check ADSB as well. Give me 1 second. Got a feeling they're on their way back. Okay, so it's heading back.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. So yeah, the Boeing Washingtons were here with 15 Squadron, and then in 1953 with Squadrons 9, 12, 15 and 249 Squadron, Coningsby entered the jet era. The very first jet aircraft of RAF Coningsby in 1953, the English Electric Canberra. We also had the Avro Vulcan between 62 and 64, only for a short period, and the Vulcans, you know where the ORP is, they'd sit around there. Someone that served here was telling me. Wow, pretty cool. The Canberra, of course, was soon to be replaced, and initially Coningsby would have seen TSR2s here. I know, touchy subject, but there we go, that's how history is. And eventually 50 F111Ks were ordered to replace the Canberra. For some reason, just when we had 2 of them ready, the contract was cancelled, and in the end, the FGR2 spare engine Phantom arrived here with number 6 Squadron. Other Phantom Squadrons, 228, the OCU, 41 fighter, 29 fighter, 23 and 56 fighter would operate here. Many of those squadrons ended up at Horsham, as Horsham became the QRA. Let me just check. Not far, is it? Unless it's going to East Kirkby, that's what. Fly over, come over the base, Of course, 1976 we had the BBMF arrive here from Coltishall. Oh, this wind is horrendous, especially up here. Right, we're just gonna check ADSB, see if that is going to East Kirkby for the display. Yeah, it looks like it's going to East Kirkby, isn't it?
I think so, yeah, I think the boat's going to go round there. Just wonder if it comes slightly north to give time to spin over the
So it looks like they're going to East Kirkby for their display, both of them. East Kirkby not far as well, about 5.5 miles in the direction of the backwards crow flies, in that direction that the camera's pointing at the moment. So they're just holding at Horncastle at the moment. So thank you for joining us as well, Lorraine, G. Van Pulliam, Philip Goodfellow, Dr. Davey, Margot Baxter, Alex Blackcat, Daniel Walker, how we doing? Aryan, Katie Coates, Aaron, hope we're all good, Mark Dudley, Alex Blackcat, Ange Baker, Darren Harwood, hope we're all good. How's it all going? Hope we're well. Steve Evans, how you doing? Getting the TEDs out, sounds good to me. So thanks to all of you who have tuned in for our little bank holiday special BBMF movements. We got LF363 Hurricane and PM631. And Ted's got his goodness me, it is shocking this wind, man. Ted, you gonna be alright, mate? Yeah, you sure? You're brave, man. You can hear that. Stuart G, thanks a lot for getting your 6-month milestone, BBMF fantastic milestone stream. Thank you. Margot, thank you as well for the super sticker. Catherine Burkett with 26 months membership. Oi oi everyone, oi oi to you. Aaron, a member for 16 months as well. Oi oi 16 months, nice one. Dave Darking, how you doing? Guards march to you. Thanks a lot for the super chat. Dave Darking with the super chat there. Thank you very much. Emma Tozer, member for 26 months. Oi, oi, great content as always. Thank you very much for your 26-month membership. New Rail Basher, Bank Holiday Weekend Warrior, of course, Ted Coningsby style. Thanks a lot for your super chat as well. Border Raider, how you doing, Purple Bat? What's going on? So we'll be back here for Typhoon action tomorrow, our regular show. This is just a little bonus bank holiday show for you. And expect the unexpected, because you just never know what's going to happen, especially on days like this. Thanks a lot everyone who's hit the like button and subscribe to the one and only Ted Coningsby channel. Ted's got another cool flag to show you as well. Really nice flag. Ted's just waving to his friends there. We've got quite a few. We've got Lincolnshire. Oh, this one, forgot we've got this one here with us actually. So we've got Lincolnshire as well, Ted's county. We've also got this lovely, very powerful flag. Nice one, Ted. And that is the motto of our Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, abbreviated BBMF for those that are new, that maybe don't know. And we're just waiting for the Hurricane and the Spitfire to RTB after their display at East Kirkby. And looks like they're heading there now, I think. Yeah, looks like we've just run in now. AJ, the reason why you can't see it on ADSB is two things. One of the aircraft, when aircraft are close together, you will only see one, or the data has been turned off. It's with any aircraft, if they're very close together, you usually see one. It's like having two GPS. ADSB, automatic broadcasting. Sorry, automatic dependent surveillance broadcasting. So, because it uses GPS, it uses satellite, it will only show up as one, or they don't need to submit the data, they can just turn that off. So that's why you can only see one. And that goes with anything. When aircraft are air-to-air refueling, you won't see it because it's so close to the tanker. When aircraft are in formation, sometimes you get four and you can only see one on ADSB because they're so close together, you will only see the one. You can also turn off your data as well on ADSB, as it uses GPS. Red arrows do the same. They only ever need one to have the ADSB receiver turned on, and of course they are quite close together, so you'll only see the one. GPS also can have signal jamming. You can also is prone to signal jamming, GPS, with satellites when they're quite low in mountains. When aircraft go low level, have you ever wondered why they just disappear? Because it's the same scenario as satellites and GPS are only good for being in higher altitudes and open spaces where they can clearly be seen. It's like when you go for a run, if you haven't waited for your GPS to connect to your watch to connect to a satellite, you'll have a really scatty, you know, like as though you've been for a run and ended up going 100 miles east when you haven't, or running a zigzag. So it won't be too long. I reckon in another 5 minutes we'll have them back. So as these are not modern aircraft, of course, they will have integrated an ADS-B receiver in the Lancaster, the Spitfire, so be it the Hurricane, all of these, and they will have an ADS-B receiver, and there are receiving stations, ground stations that collect the data and then submit it to air traffic control and the ADS-B system. Don't forget, aircraft will still be picked up by primary radar, regardless of what they are. But it's how they're seen. We'll go into that on another time when we've got F-35s, right? Cal, totally agree with you. BBMF, such a treasure to see, beautiful to hear those engines. Absolutely. You've got to remember how old these aircraft are. They are 80 years plus. Or some just under. No, actually no, 80 years plus. I was thinking of something else that was made in 46, but no, these are, I think the highest is 45. Oh yeah, they'll be they'll be 80 plus. Okay, so the display has just finished with the Spitfire and Hurricane. They are making their way back. Okay, get ready. Here we go. Type of display they're doing, where they're going to do the whole two shit first, the pairs like synchro, and then their separate ones. Obviously I'm not there to see it, but thanks a lot everyone that smashed the like button. Thank you very much if you can do that. It helps the stream. It really does. So they're doing a display at East Kirkby for the pistons. Props and pistons, that's the one. Mark Stubbs, how you doing? All your way to you. Stuart G, how's it going? Hope you're good. Thanks everyone for joining us on this little bank holiday special. Just waiting for the Spitfire and the Hurricane to complete their displays and make their way back. RTB Coningsby. We'll be back tomorrow first thing. That's it. Yeah, they've finished their display on the way back now. Right. Oh, and a hanger brake. Yes. Requesting a hanger brake as well. Nice, why not? This will be good. Let me just get these out. Hurricane has requested a hanger brake. I'm not sure about the Spitfire. not a hanger brake then, maybe it's just a visual recovery then. Something I never thought about. The Hurricane's wheels are facing inwards, right? And they fold inwards, whereas the Spitfire's wheels face outwards. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? You've got the landing gear cover on the outside, sort of like the wheel facing in. Whereas on the Spitfire, it looks like the wheels are on the outer side, if that makes sense, and the covers are on the inside. Does that make sense? You get me? Something I never thought about, actually. Or am I wrong? Am I completely wrong on that? Just looked like it there for a minute. Do you see what I mean by the wheels inside? About the covers being on the outer side and then the wheels facing in. I never thought about that. There we go. Pilots do start off on the Hurricane before going on to the Spitfire, if I remember correctly. Teddy Bears, our sweet and neat bank holiday special complete. There you go, we kind of worked that out together. Of course, the wings are different. The elliptical classic wing designed by RJ Mitchell. They kind of go, they're kind of raised as well on a, if you look at them on a front profile, and the length of the nose to the cockpit is massive on the Spitfire compared to the Hurricane. But there we go, I hope you all enjoyed that. Our little sweet and neat bank holiday stream complete on this extremely windy day. I don't know what it's like tomorrow, but Colin, thank you very much for 11 months membership as well. Thank you very much. Right then, let's finish up. Thank you very much, ladies, gents, teddy bears. So thank you to all of our viewers that are tuned in today. Thank you for a little quick stream. There we are. Hope we're all good. So we're gonna just enjoy our rest of our bank holiday weekend, super weekend, whatever you want to call it. We'll finish off the rest of our bank holiday Monday, Ted and I. BBMF, thank you very much for what you do. You know, always remembering, lest we forget, ladies, gents and teddy bears. And of course, all our viewers and members, thank you very much for tuning in. RAF Coningsby as well, thank you very much. And we'll see you all tomorrow, where we will commence with our Coningsby Typhoon action. Ladies, gents, teddy bears, my name's Nikos, cameraman, historian and commentator. This is our squadron leader, Ted Coningsby. You've been watching the Ted Coningsby channel live here at Ted HQ. So for the last time for today, it is see you soon. Wish you well, ladies, gents, teddy bears. See ya. Hit the button, Teddy. Right. Let's hit the button. And off we go.
Right, Golf India, right, 31, right, 814.